Good morning, students. Happy Monday. This is going to be a short week for you because it's the Easter week, so you only have really 2 days of school to get through this week. And what we're going to be doing for world history is going to be pretty simple, and it's going to be a different way to assess you. We're not taking a standard regular test the way we've been doing, so this is going to be a little bit different. It's called a one-pager. I think you're familiar with one-pagers because it seems like I remember a certain someone doing them last year, maybe when you did Romeo and Juliet or something. But a one-pager is just a way to basically, do you understand what you read? Do you understand the information? So I'm showing you my one-pager here. For this week, you don't have to have this all done. Really, the only thing you have to have done this week is to have read the pages that I'm asking you to read and try to come up with some notes or some way to organize what you're going to put on your one-pager. So it does not need to be completed. You just either have to have notes or show me progress that you have started it. And I really want it to be broken down into politics, society, and economics. And you don't have to go in any certain order, but that's how I do want you to break down your one-pager, and you'll see the template that I posted on RenWeb. Okay, so pardon me, on Haiku. I want to really quick go through the PowerPoint with you, and I'm not even going to talk about the PowerPoint. I just want to point out some of the pictures. This is where you're going to be reading you can use the PowerPoint to help. You can use the book pages that I've also scanned and taken pictures of to help. But I do need to point out a couple of things. So we did this on the Great Depression. And so now we're going to start looking at the rise of totalitarian regimes, dictators coming into the world. And the reason they're able to come in and rise to power is because of the Great Depression. The Depression is hitting worldwide, and when people are scared about what to expect, that their economy is in shambles, that their government system is not providing what they need, then people start listening to others who are powerful, they're forceful, they're telling them what they want to hear, and it allows for dictators to rise up. When things aren't going well in a democracy, you might be willing to give up rights when you're trying to feed your family, when you're trying to have some sort of security that somebody is promising. So the first real totalitarian regime that I want to talk about is Il Duce, Mussolini. He is the first fascist. Now, we'll talk about the difference between a fascist and a communist, but a fascist is somebody who is on the far, far right hand of the spectrum. You've heard about right-leaning Republicans and left-leaning Democrats. A fascist is far, far, far to the right. And that's Il Duce. That's Mussolini in Italy. There's a slide about Mussolini basically using the Catholic Church, and he definitely uses the Catholic Church to his benefit. So he's the first fascist that we see rising up to power, especially in Europe. The USSR now, it's now become the USSR, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. This is after, the Russian Revolution, and the Soviets are coming into power. Remember, Soviets are those little councils of workers and soldiers that are cropping up all over Russia. And so Russia becomes the USSR. And in all of this, Lenin dies. Lenin dies on January 1924. I gotta tell you right there, looking at that picture. So Lenin dies in 1924, and his body is put on display for the next 65 years. It was like you were almost expected to go and visit Lenin's body. It was put in a mausoleum. This is there's a glass kind of coffin around him, so you could visit him. Families would make family trips out of it, like, oh, we're going to go to Washington, D.C. and see our nation's capital. Oh, come on, honey, let's pack up the kids. We're going to go see Lenin's dead body. This is how really important Lenin was to not only, the Soviet Union, but really the Russian people themselves. But Lenin has passed away, and now once again, who's going to come into power? And it's going to be between Stalin and Trotsky. And I know you're reading Animal Farm, and you're going to see who's going to win out. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be Stalin. There he is right there. Stalin, what you're going to read about in your book is his 5-year plan. For sure, you are going to want to put your 5-year plan under the economic system of Stalin's side of the one pager. The Great Purge, though, is also happening, and I would personally put the Great Purge under probably society. The Great Purge was pretty terrible. If you've ever heard of the word a gulag was a forced labor camp. It was essentially prison where you were forced to work, and you were sent off to Siberia, far eastern Russia, if they didn't kill you, which they very much did. So Stalin was terribly cruel, terribly dictatorial, and did some pretty good things for Russia, and did some horrible things to Russia. All right, and then we have Hitler and the Nazi regime. There is Hitler as a young man. I really encourage you to watch that video that I've embedded right there, because I want to talk to you about Lebensraum. And this is, when you are comparing Hitler and Stalin, Lebensraum is the idea that I would put under society. Lebensraum is the idea of living space, where Hitler, especially the way the Treaty of Versailles had happened, Hitler was a young corporal in World War I, was not a very heroic soldier in World War I. But after World War I, his own involvement in it, he felt slighted. He felt like the reason why Germany lost World War I was because of Jewish people. And after World War I, when Germany's economy was in shambles, the people who were still rich were Jewish business people. And he was angry about it. He felt like that was wrong. And he had this terrible hatred for Jewish people. And eventually he's going to become part of they call it the Socialist Party, but in all reality, the Nazi Party is going to be very, very much of a fascist party. He goes to jail. You'll read about why he goes to jail. He's in a little uprising, the beer hall push, if you will. That's what I want you to watch. And he writes this book in jail called My Struggle, Mein Kampf. So watch that video about Lebensraum and the idea of living space, that German people needed more living space, therefore Jewish people needed to leave. That right there is President Hindenburg. Now, Hindenburg is the president of the Weimar Republic. After the Treaty of Versailles, one of the things that had to happen was that they had to have elections, and they had to have a republic. And Hindenburg is a decent president, but he names Hitler chancellor. And he gives a lot of power, more than he ever should have, to Hitler. And here's a picture I really want you to look at. When Hitler gets all of this power, here's another thing that I would put under probably both either politics or society, and it's the Nuremberg laws. The Nuremberg laws were this series of laws, and there's 400 of them. They didn't happen all at once. They happened bit by bit, little by little. And it seems like, oh, just this little thing you have to do, or oh, now we're imposing this restriction, or whatever it was, but it was over years. And eventually, most Jewish people lost pretty much all of their civil rights. There you can see a picture of a Jewish family. They had to wear the Star of David. Well, personally, you know, you look at the Star of David and you think, oh, well, they're a Jew and that's something that you had to do. Well, it would be a little bit to me like if my government said, oh, you're Catholic, you have to wear a crucifix. Well, I'd be like, okay, that's not a real bad thing because I'm very proud to be Catholic. Yes, I am proud to show off that Jesus Christ is the one, the God, the man who died for me, and this is how he died. Okay, I'll wear a crucifix. Like, it wouldn't bother me at all. Well, this is the same as Jewish people. These are God's chosen people. This is the emblem, the symbol of who they are. They're not ashamed to wear it, but it will be what then identifies them later on. And this is Hitler's way of upping and upping and upping the restrictions and taking away all of their not only basic rights but civil rights, their rights, of their lives. And then Kristallnacht. Kristallnacht means Night of the Broken Glass, and I really just want you to look at this picture. There was a coordinated attack on all Jewish businesses and synagogues that happened on one night, and it was a violence against Jewish people. And the next day, they would loot businesses, they would burn synagogues, they arrested Jewish men, they put them into kind of like confined areas. And look at that woman and that man. They're walking by this storefront, which has just been attacked. You know, that's been in shambles. And look at their faces. Their faces are a little bit like, oh, life is normal. Everything's good. Tee hee ha ha. And they really have no remorse for what's happening to the citizens of their country because they're German. Nothing's happening to them. They're not Jewish. So eventually Hitler sets up concentration camps. Dachau is one of the first ones. Then Auschwitz and Treblinka come along. And this is where the final solution, as Hitler calls it, comes into play. So their work is liberty. This is Auschwitz's train tracks coming right into their extermination camp. That picture down there on the left, that's of Dachau. When I lived in Italy, we went to Dachau, and it was the most eerie feeling. You can see those little raised platforms pretty much as far as you can see. Those are the essentially like huts. They were little cabins, if you will, of where the people slept. And you looked and you just saw one after another. Now those were all torn down, but you could see where the platform was. And there were these long like row houses. So that's all I want to talk to you about today. I expect that you do some reading and some research on your own to create that one pager. I showed you my example. My example was of FDR and Churchill. Your example will be of Hitler and Stalin. Have a great week. Have a fantastic Easter break, and I'll talk to you later.